Well, hey, Super Friends. We are headed to a charity screening of Superman the movie, where all the proceeds are going to the wildlife relief efforts in Los Angeles. Our channel is about hope. It's about stories that give hope.
Yeah.
And Superman the movie was not only one of the greatest movies of all time, but also one of the most inspiring and hopeful movies ever made. I mean, later on they said that the S symbol actually means hope.
You mentioned before that I'd never seen this movie in the theater, which is true because I wasn't born yet.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm so glad that this movie is helping out people that, well, very much need help in California right now. There's a lot of people without homes. There's a lot of people without a good, warm place to stay.
Yeah.
And it's scary.
I saw this movie when I was a little kid, and ever since was running around my house wearing a Superman cape. There are unofficial reports that I climbed on the roof of our house and perhaps may have jumped off the house with a cape because...
Wasn't it into a snowman?
The story is that I went up on the roof of the house, and this is not a small house, and I jumped off the roof because there was a snowman in the front yard, and I aimed for the snowman, and apparently I made it because I'm not dead, because I'm here making this video. I could have made all of that up. There's no way to prove it either way, so I'm going with it. Yeah, that's what happened.
I believe that's something you would do.
And I am not ashamed to admit that I still own a Superman cape now.
Yep.
And I'm not going to say I haven't worn it since. Anyway, we're on our way to the theater, and yeah, we'll pick it up when we get there. We got our tickets. We're on our way. And here we go. Hey, here we are. We made it. We'll let you know what we think when we're back. So, bye.
Enjoy the granddaddy of every superhero movie to follow, Superman. But first, it's my pleasure to introduce a very special guest, one of the producers of Superman, Mr. Ilya Salkind.
Yes, it's a very exciting day for me to see the movie. As you know, that was produced in '78. So it's been quite some time. I hope you enjoy it. I think it's a pretty good movie. All right, thank you. Bye.
This was my first time, like, what was this? This is amazing. Never. Sorry. You're good. I have to throw things at me.
How was it? It's my favorite superhero movie.
I am just like blown away.
Favorite superhero movie.
Yes.
You did too. I'm watching it.
Right
You
now.
laugh in case you don't realize they're funny. You forget that they're funny. It's just an amazing movie.
All right, so that was amazing. It brought me back to when I was a little kid, and I saw that for the first time, and it's beautiful, it's wonderful.
It's humble, and it's sweet, and it has strength in it that people are looking for but can't really find nowadays. And it's a beautiful movie. It's so more than worth seeing. It's something that like a lot of people are missing out on. Please go see it.
We saw a lady here.
Oh, she was so excited.
Yeah,
she'd never seen it before, and she was just talking about how great it was.
Yeah, she literally said, "I cannot believe it was this good. I cannot believe they used to make movies this good." And it just delighted my heart. It's like, yes, there used to be that much care, there used to be that much love, there used to be that much art consideration, there used to be that much hope.
Yeah.
And that's what this movie does. It earns
so much hope.
It earns it though. It's not tacked on.
Every single part. And the people that worked on it worked so hard on it. Like, I was thinking through it as I was watching the movie, how much work they put into, like, the acting, the sets, the costumes, the incredible amount of models, and the time that they took to make all of that. And it was just so heartfelt and beautiful, and it's something that's, like, it's hard, it's beautiful.
Could have one moment. And people, I think people want that. I think people really want goodness in life, and they don't have many examples of it anymore. And so sometimes we have to look to the past to guide the future.
And the character of Superman, he's about the perfect combination of humble and strong. He is not afraid to ask for help. He's not afraid to be vulnerable. He's not afraid to be a little bit of a dunce sometimes. And yet he's very smart. He loves people, and he will put himself forward when he needs to, and he's very loving. That's something that we all aspire to be. It's very, very difficult to find those kinds of people, and we need to be those kinds of people in order to find them.
So, you know, if you've never seen it, if you're a generation that grew up after it, go back to see it. Spend some time. And, you know, if you have to watch it at home, you're not as blessed to be able to see it in the theater like we were lucky enough to be able to do. Put the phone down, pay attention to the movie, and just get into it. John Williams' score will make you fly. Unless you have the hardest of hearts, you can't help but be enamored with this, because the fashions might be dated and some of the humor might be corny, but at the heart of it, there really is a compassionate soul, and
it's not afraid to be what it is.
Yeah,
and it's good.
Whew. So we had an amazing thing happen after watching that movie. We were in the lobby taking pictures, being nerdy, and this lady came up to me, and she said, "Did you like the movie?" And I told her, "I love this movie. It's my favorite movie." And she said, "My husband made this movie." And I go, "What?" And she says, "He's right over there." And I was like, "Yeah, it was Ilya Salkind, who was the executive producer of the movie."
Yeah, and she said, "Can I introduce you?"
Yes, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yes you can. And so she brought me on over to him, and I talked with him for a little bit, and I thanked him for the movie. I got to shake his hand, and we even got a picture, so we'll share that with you. I saw this movie when I was a little kid, and I just got to meet the guy who, I mean, it's not Richard Donner, fair enough, but I got to meet I got to meet the guy who made it. Like, that's amazing. So that's a blessing from on high that got to happen. Years ago, I got to see Richard Donner, who directed this movie. And I wasn't telling you about it. It was for a screening of his movie Lady Hawk.
Oh, yeah?
And it was at the ArcLight Theater, which is no longer open, but we're still praying that it will be in some way. But he was absolutely amazing in the Q&A, because they were asking him about making it, and he would defend his actors, he would defend his style for the movie. And then I remember distinctly someone asked, "What would you say to someone who says that you should have used an orchestral score, that they don't like the synthesizer score?" And Richard Donner basically said, "Forget him." But he didn't say forget. He didn't say forget. He said something else, but still, he stuck to his guns. And he's like, "No, that's what I want, and I'm sticking with it." And he was right. It's more iconic because of that. But what he did with this movie, and with all of his movies, is that he really invested in the actors, the relationships between the characters. He spent that time.
Yeah, you could tell with how much like chemistry, even if it's not like romantic chemistry, how much chemistry that each of the characters had with each other. The way that they looked at each other was just so genuine and just human.
And his movies are alive. Even his, background actors and the people that are only there for a little bit. Just the reactions and responses to people. It feels lived in. It feels alive. It's collaborative. It's an ensemble.
I remember there was one part where Superman gets the robber outside of the building
Yeah.
and brings it to the police officer. And I just find it so funny that even after the police officer was like cuffing him, he was still looking out at Superman flying away. Like the cop wasn't struggling with the robber wasn't trying to get away. Like they're both just like,
Yeah. They were awestruck.
like that's such a human response.
And
I love that.
That's the thing about movies from this era, that I always responded to. You know, my dad said, "Well, gosh, you were really impressionable," and he's like, "No, he's right." But it's that these movies like this promoted awe and wonder,
Yeah.
and to have awe and wonder means that you're a little bit more innocent, you're a little bit more, dare I say, naive, but you're also not cocky, you're not arrogant, you're not full of yourself, you're not a know-it-all, you're not a been there, done that. You have like the mind, kind of like the mind of a child.
Yeah.
You're childlike, not childish, I guess. You
And it's okay to be naive. I know that there's a lot of kids that are just online all the time, and they see a magic trick, they know how it's done. They see CGI and they know how it's done. They're just not impressed with anything. And like I miss when kids had awe and wonder in their eyes, and this movie definitely brings it. It's just so. There's so much hope in this movie. There's so much like, whoa, like it, whether it comes to the feats of strength, whether it comes to the characters just talking to each other, just being their genuine selves, whether it comes to the character of Superman, that he's just like so humble and sweet, like that's something to be in awe of, and it's well done.
We do need examples of that in our culture, but they need to be done well. They don't need to be done cheesy. They don't need to be done preachy. They need to be done in something that's lived in and earned, so that when the character moment comes,
Comes from a genuine place.
Yeah, it comes from a genuine place, and that means that it's got to be a little organic. It's got to be a little not so controlled, and so that means that if you've got a script that you wrote and you absolutely fell in love with every single line, if an actor has something that hits it better, but it's not exactly what was scripted, but
sometimes that's better.
Yeah, if it conveys the meaning without being so, stuck to the script, maybe the script is a guideline.
Yeah, I like that there's this big wide shot when Clark's was it uncle, dad?
His dad
fell, and you didn't close in on the two characters. You didn't have a cut between the two having a conversation. It was a wide shot of just a man who had fallen, his son holding him, and the mother running in.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was gut-wrenching. It was just, it was almost like if it was found footage, it would be put on the news, because that's just like,
Yeah, and that's the great editor Stuart Baird and the cinematographer Jeffrey Unsworth working together. But this movie knew how to take a moment.
Yeah.
Because a lot of movies these days are just, they don't take beats. Everything is just in your face all the time, hyperstimulation.
Yeah.
And that's a fun ride once in a while. I get it. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But to take an emotional beat, to let you go through that cycle of feeling and emotion, that is an art form. That has to be crafted, and you have to care. And that means that when you're making your story, you have to think about what emotional arc are you putting the audience through. And when you're thinking of the audience doing this, then you know that you can't just be everything. You've gotta take beats. You've got to have rhythm. You've got to...
Yeah, and it's okay to have a slow moment. As a matter of fact, the slow moments emphasize the fast ones, emphasize the strong and powerful ones. Sometimes even the strongest scene can actually just be quiet and long and just holding on that feeling. And
Yeah,
it's hard to find.
Those slow moments inform the character so that when you get to the fast moments, you are invested and you care.
Yeah.
The thing about these days is nobody cares. In movies, it seems like nobody cares about anything. Everything's flippant. Everything is, we'll get the essence of a character in one or two little tacked on traits.
Yeah.
But if you live with them for a bit, if you take the time to live with them, then you can relate, you empathize, and then when what happens to them, it feels like it's what's happening to you. And that's magic. That's magic.
I remember one time somebody was having a conversation with me about the character of Superman, and they formed this opinion having not known anything about the character. Like, he was just given powers at birth, and he just was awesome all the time forever. And I had to explain to them that the guy grew up on a farm with humble beginnings, with a humble family. His father passed away, and he was buried in a humble place. He was okay with being a nobody and helping others anyway.
And that humanity has us identify with him.
Yeah.
He's fully godlike and fully man. It kind of reminds me of someone, but anyway. But that makes him relatable, and his weakness is also his strength. It's his compassion for people.
Yeah.
And I know it seems almost ludicrous to be talking about a fictional character this way, it's because he represents those ideals. He embodies them. We've anthropomorphized those into him. That's a really long word. But we've personified those character traits in him. And, he can be made fun of in our culture as much as you want. Oh, he's a big Boy Scout. Oh, this, oh, that. But, everybody loves and respects Superman because he stays true to his character, and he embodies the ideals that we all hope we could.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why people mock him, though, is like they feel like they can't achieve it, or they feel like it's too fake. You don't deconstruct hope.
No.
You don't deconstruct integrity and humbleness. You just, accept it.
Yeah.
Just let it be what it is, and hopefully strive to do it.
And that's what's made him my favorite character of all time, and why my favorite characters from fiction all embody those traits, because that's what I would like to rise to be, even if I don't measure up to that, because they are a fictional ideal.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage you. I'm not saying I know the answer to doing this, but I know that if your heart is in the right place and you get the right people around you, you can make stories like this, and they will connect with people, because you tap into that. Yeah. And you're tapping into what everybody else is internally feeling and dealing with inside, that they'll never show, but they will latch onto it if you do that.
Yeah, I was doing some research on writing, actually, and one of the pieces of advice that they gave was that if it's not genuine, it's going to show. One of the examples that they gave was comedy, where it's very self-aware. Then it's kind of a cop-out for the writer to have a moment where the character can just be genuine. When a character is too self-aware and they're commentating on themselves, then they're not allowed to be a person to connect to. To have a writer to be vulnerable enough to have a vulnerable character, that's really hard to do. And there's so many cop-outs nowadays with just being sarcastic and just memeing on tropes and all of that. And it's pretty much all because they don't really value that as much. And it's hard to do. It's really hard to do. But as we saw with this movie, very clearly it's very worth it to do, and it's something that people are looking for.
Yeah, the thing about movies that have people being sarcastic or meta or deconstructing or whatever is that the people who are making it have decided that they are above the material, or they're above
Yeah.
the story.
Yeah.
Like they're looking down on it and they're analyzing it or deconstructing it. They're not, that you've lost a connection with
Yep.
with humanity by
Yep.
doing that. Now, and I love some of those movies. I think some of them are hilarious and funny, and
Yeah.
you know, I enjoy that, but
Not all the time.
but not all the time, and certainly not everything. People, at least in these days, where you know you're watching this online, and so, but you, just like us, you seek to have real connection with people. You seek to have a community. You want to have a real, authentic, genuine connection.
Yeah,
And
everyone's looking for it. Everyone's looking for connection, especially after 2020. Holy crap.
yeah. And the best we can do if we can't physically be together is to create art and stories that connect us in that way, so that shared experience we can come together on.
Why do you think fandoms are even created? We all fall in love with these characters so much that that's how we create a connection with each other.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have that connection otherwise, because these characters are just pieces of ourselves, or pieces of people that we want to be, that we all fell in love with. And that's something that we do with real life people, not just characters. That's what we do with real life people. That's how we make connections. And it's definitely, it's just beautiful, and it's very rare nowadays. We need to look for it, we need to find it, and we need to be it.
So, anyway, thanks for seeing our video, and we can't wait to show you more things like this. It might not always be some grand field trip like this, but we want to encourage you. So if you've got a story that you want to tell and it's full of hope, make it. People need it. Just seeing the reaction of people out from this movie, they're desperate for it. We want to make those stories. You want to make those stories. So be encouraged and do it. It's worth it.
It is so worth it.
So, bye for now.